Welcome back, City Builders. CodiakTheKodiak here. In the first video of 2025, we are going to be going over the newest region pack for City Skylines 2, which is completely free and on Paradox Mods, the region pack for Eastern Europe. Spoiler, this pack might contain my favorite building in any of the region packs thus far. Now, before we get started, I want to let you guys know that you might have noticed something different, and we went through a small little rebrand here on the channel. This channel is now going to be known exclusively as Kodiak Cities, where we will be focusing exclusively on city building content, or maybe some simulation and strategy games mixed in as well, but with an exclusive emphasis on city building games, like City Skylines 2. I have taken my old branding of CodiakTheKodiak and made a completely new channel, which I would ask greatly if you guys would go over and subscribe, where we'll be focusing on variety content, and I will be live streaming over there every single day that I am live on Twitch. Unless we're playing City Skylines 2, in which case I'll be live over here. Honestly, even if you guys aren't interested that much in watching me play some variety content like Icarus or Project Zomboid or maybe something else, it really would mean a lot if you guys would go over and subscribe. The faster I get to 1,000 subscribers, the fastest I get to monetizing that channel, and that helps me keep this channel clean for cities building content. Now that we got that out of the way, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and do not forget to turn on notifications so you can keep up to date with all the City Skylines 2 news, tips, and tricks. Without further ado, let's dive on into the video. Okay, before we get started looking at all of the Eastern European content, I want to let you guys know that over on my Twitch stream, yes, I'm shilling it once again in this video, I'm going to be doing a streamathon all February long over on Twitch. We're dubbing it the 9 to 5-a-thon, where I'll be live 9 to 5 every single day throughout February, with some minor cutouts for doctor appointments. All subs, bits, and tips go towards the timer, and I'd greatly appreciate if you guys even just came out and took a lurk for a bit. I have lots of fun things planned, and that'll be going all February long, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern Time. Now, that won't slow down any of the new content we have over here for the new region packs that were also announced, which I'll bring up on screen right now. We have the new dates for all of the new region packs that are coming out this year, and that's all leading up to the last region pack, which is US West, coming out on March 3rd. Now, March 3rd is the first stream after my 9 to 5-thon will be over, where I'll be making my live streaming, I guess, return to City Skylines content. I've taken a quick break as all of these region packs have come out, and we're going to be diving back in on March 3rd. That is the first Monday of March, and the week after that, March 10th, is the 10-year anniversary of City Skylines. Now, I want to do something special for City Skylines' 10-year anniversary, so what I would really like to do is do a 10-hour build-a-thon challenge, where I try to make the coolest, biggest city I possibly can in 10 straight hours of gaming. And that's going to be it for me shilling my schedule to you guys. Let's actually dive on into this Eastern European content here. Now, as I said at the front of the video, I think this pack contains my favorite building in all of the region packs that have been released thus far, and we're going to look at that building last. But first, you can kind of see everything that's included in here. If we go into the actual district view, you can see how I've organized everything out. So down over here, we have the low-res buildings, which are down here. We have medium-res, low-rent/high resolution, because I've kind of lumped those two together. We have the mixed residential and low commercial right here. Next to them are the signature buildings. I didn't include those in the districts. And then up here are the only two office buildings included in the pack. They're both signature buildings, not zonables. So do keep that in mind. Over here are all of the service buildings, except for my favorite, which I will show you guys later. Now, I think we can dive on in and start taking a look at some of these buildings. And you know, I'll let you guys in on a little secret. So sometimes we like to take a look at some of these region packs a little early. Obviously, we get early access to them so we can start getting ahead on some of the content of that will be available for you guys. That way, as these packs go out, we can release videos that will hopefully incentivize you guys to come take a look at them. One of the interesting things about this pack when I first took a look at it was how many buildings looked eerily similar to buildings in DayZ. Now, I know I keep bringing up Twitch, but my first game I ever created content for was DayZ. So it was a really weird flash from the past when I first took a look at a lot of these buildings. And I guess it makes sense because a lot of the Soviet bloc buildings were kind of like cookie cutter, carbon cutout, different versions of the same building that were kind of built around the same time. The Americas kind of had a similar thing with the Sears homes around the country. So it all kind of makes sense, but it was just like, it was really trippy when I first saw them. And these buildings look absolutely incredible. I think the details from them kind of speak for themselves. themselves. This is the level 1. This is the smallest building and the lowest level building in the entire pack right here. This little 2x2 low density house. And as you can see, as we go down the street, you can see all the different variations. And then as you go further back, you can see the level ups as well. But these are all super cute. They definitely remind me of buildings that I would like maybe see in Eastern Europe. As an American, I don't really know what all of these buildings would necessarily look like, but they do feel like they would give that vibe. And then as you can see, we have the level 5s up here. Some of them are quite bright. You can change a lot of these using recolor. I don't believe every building in every color set can be changed, but for example, these really bright fences, so we can look at this one right here, this like bright blue color, we can actually change that and dull it down if we want to. Oh, that's that one right there. Sorry, we can change the orange right here, yes. Oh, we can't. Okay, so it does seem like some of the buildings you can and some of them you can't. So, for example, I think I changed the color of this fence right here when I was messing around with it. So we can actually change that to the bright blue. If we click off of it, it does change the bright blue. But some of the buildings, you're actually changing the building itself and not the fence. This looks like that changed now. I'm really confused on how the, a lot of these buildings were not made with the recolor mod in mind. So hopefully future buildings, as they are released, will. But for example, for right now, this is not including that. So there we have all the low-res buildings. As we get up to the biggest one, it has this beautiful courtyard in the back. I really like the way these low-res look right here. Next up, we have the medium residential, and there's quite a bit of these, which makes sense, I guess, if you think of Soviet architecture. It's a lot of apartment blocks and stuff like that. So, and these definitely fit the vibe. We have some nicer ones up over here, and we have some rundown older ones up down in the lower levels here. So level 2, level 4, and level 5. So these are all the unique meshes, by the way. Aside from the left, right, these are basically all the unique ones. So sometimes they'll include the level 1 and 2 as like additional assets because they are technically different assets in the game, but in all reality, they are the same mesh. So I try to place all of the unique meshes whenever I do these videos. This is a pretty substantially sized pack as well. This is kind of what I was hoping most of the packs would be size-wise, and I think this kind of falls maybe in the dead middle in terms of actual building amount. I think what's really nice about this pack, too, is that when I think of, like, I guess Eastern Europe and a lot of these post-Soviet bloc countries, a lot of the buildings that existed in them were carbon cutouts of one another. So there's a lot of repetition in some of these countries in the way the buildings actually look. So you don't really need a ton of different variety in a lot of Eastern Europe builds because there is a lot of repetition. So I feel like this is honestly the perfect amount to make a solely, Eastern European looking city, aside from the fact that the pack really doesn't include any offices. But as we zoom on in, if we get in real close here, I don't know what happened to my settings. Everything's kind of like glitchy and laggy. I need to go back through them. They must have got reset. But if we look up real close at these buildings, I mean, they look absolutely incredible, especially as we get up to these nicer ones. They do feel like they're in like a more important city center type vibe. And as we go out, we get to a little bit poorer, run down, maybe some rural cities or rural little towns that have more of these apartment buildings in them. I think they look absolutely fantastic, though. What's nice is they do include a lot of high rises in this pack as well. A lot of high rise apartment buildings right here. And they will add quite a bit of variety to this pack and your builds as you build them out, which is super nice. And some of these low rent buildings are quite a bit lower. They almost look like they could be like retirement homes in like an NA build or something like that. But they do just kind of look like daintier, maybe apartment buildings. I quite like the way they look. So we go down here and look at the smaller ones as well. I mean, this just looks like a cute little cottage almost. I absolutely love the way these buildings look. I could easily see myself using this in an NA build as well as like a little apartment building. I think these building assets just look the time and care taken to put into these buildings is definitely noted in my book. Now, just some small detail that I did notice when taking a look at the low rent buildings specifically is that the low rent 2x4 buildings are missing a level 5, and it does appear like that building does still exist, but it is actually labeled as a 2x4 or 2x3 or 4x3. Sorry, it's labeled as a 4x3 instead. So they actually have an extra one over here. So just keep that in mind that there is the correct number of assets for them. This one is just wrongly labeled, which does put this one off zone a little bit. So if you are using Move It mod, you could probably just drag this one up and then no harm, no foul. Next up, we have the mixed buildings, which will fall greatly in with a lot of the medium and high density, low income kind of buildings here. So we have a lot of shop fronts. The only props included in this pack are these shop fronts as well. So if you want to make a custom shop entrance, you can do that with the props included. I did not place those out, but those are the only props included in this pack. But as we go back, you can kind of see that these are basically just the apartment buildings with a nice little shop front on the bottom here. I absolutely love the way these look. Now we can get into the first of our signature buildings, Olymp. I'm just going to call it Olymp because I don't know how to pronounce the second half of this, but it's a 17-story modernist building based on the Olymp in Gdansk. I'm going to say Gdansk. We're going to go with that. Let me know if I'm right in the comments. Also known as, yep, not even going to try to pronounce that, but it adds +1 attractiveness citywide and +4 well-being within 750 meters. It can have 8 households in it, and it can have a company in the bottom. I feel like that's kind of small for the number of households based on the size of this building. But anyways, here is our signature building. It's pretty cool. I like how it has this extended overhang here. I quite like that. So that's the first of our signature buildings, and here are the rest of the mixed use. Now let's go up into the commercial. So these are all the commercial. They are low density commercial. So if you want to zone commercial for this pack, you will have to do it in low density. They don't necessarily look super low density. They're like more or less a European, I guess, take on low density. If this was American low density, this would be considered high density for sure. But these buildings are absolutely adorable. I love the brick ones, especially. I mean, just such a bright, vibrant color, the details on the windows. I think these look absolutely fantastic. I especially really like these ones right here. I don't know why, I'm just like completely drawn to these buildings. I also love the color on these buildings as well. I think a lot of people have a misconception that a lot of these Eastern European countries are like kind of drab and dull. There's a similar effect with like, I guess it's kind of a joke in the film industry that there's always a yellow hue whenever they show Mexico on film. And I feel like the gray and dull vibe of Eastern Europe, while, you know, maybe the weather might be true, but a lot of the buildings over there are incredibly bright and colorful as well. So I love that they were able to introduce that into the buildings too. You do have this interesting like 6 wide by 4 deep building here, which makes it feel like a whole cohesive block. It's like multiple buildings just kind of packed together. I like that quite a bit, and you could probably build a nice cool block around that as well. Same with the 4x4, I believe, right here as well. Now we have quite a few more signature buildings here. We have the Hotel Polonez, classic modernist hotel based on Gramada, formerly Polonez Hotel in Lomza. Gosh, I'm butchering all of these. I know it. I absolutely love the way this building looks. I like the, I really like Soviet architecture. I think it's very interesting. It's always very blocky and brutalist, but like also there is like a bit of uniqueness and character to a lot of the buildings as well that I feel like kind of goes like unnoticed too. So I really appreciate the Eastern Europe building aesthetic. This architecture style kind of reminds me maybe a little bit right here, specifically of this building, of something you would maybe see in like the Vice, Miami Vice kind of deal with like the lines kind of poking out of the building. I like this one quite a bit, actually. I could see myself using this in an American build as well. Next up, we have the Eastern European Shopping Center right here. So the EE Shopping Center looks like a pretty decent sized mall. I'm sure you could incorporate this into a modern city campus as well if you wanted to make it appear like it's a college building or some kind, draw people to an area. Right here with the EE Theater, this almost feels like a blocky brutalist art museum as well. I could see it being a theater too, though. It reminds me of something that you would see in Workers and Resources, the game. Published by Hooded Horse, the publishers of Manor Lords, which is a really good game. If you guys haven't ever taken a look at that and you like the more management side of city builders, definitely a great game to take a look at, Workers and Resources. And then we also have the Eastern European Hotel right here. I could see this being like a mountain lodge of some kind too, if you wanted to make it into that. I quite like this building, or maybe even like a school aesthetic if you wanted to think about it like that. Now, finally, we also have these 2 office buildings right here. So we have the Round Office and the Eastern European Office. The Round Office is an office building inspired by, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, from Poznan, built in 1948 through 1954, designed by Marek Nope, not even gonna try. Not even gonna try, but it adds +1 office efficiency citywide, +5 interest in university education citywide, +1 university graduation chance citywide, and +5 well-being within 1 kilometer. We also have the Eastern European office, which adds +1 office efficiency citywide, +5 interest in university education citywide, +1 university graduation chance citywide, +5 well-being within 500 meters, and -2 crime rate within 500 meters. I forgot to go over the stats for the commercial ones as well. So we have the -1% import cost citywide for the hotel. We have a +1 attractiveness citywide and +5 well-being within 1.5 kilometers. The shopping center gives -1 import cost, +1 attractiveness, and +3 well-being within 1.5 kilometers. The same thing can be said for the theater, except it's +5 well-being, and the hotel, EE Hotel, is exactly the same as the shopping center. So that is it for your zonables and the signature buildings that go along with them. Next, let's take a look at the service buildings. And there's one water building right here, which delivers fresh water into the city via water pipes and can be placed anywhere, is the EE Water Tower. It's just like a nice brick water tower. I could see a lot of people using this in a lot of different ways. I think it's pretty nice. I can see this being used not just in an Eastern European build, which I quite like. Next up, we have the Eastern European City Hall. This definitely screams Eastern European to me. I like when I think, yeah, Eastern European City Hall. It's this building. It's beautiful though, absolutely beautiful, stunning. I think it looks great. It's -2% loan interest and -3% import costs citywide. I think it looks great. There's no extensions on it. It's just a nice looking building. Over here is the police headquarters, the Eastern European Police Headquarters. Can fit up to 8,000 criminals and has 20 police cars. So here we go. There's that one, and all the vehicles are parked out to the side over here. Next up is the Eastern European Police Station, which can fit 40 criminals and 10 vehicles as well. So there we go. Next up is the Eastern European Welfare Office. This building almost kind of reminds me of like a high school in a way, but just by the way it looks, like an American high school kind of. I like how it's fenced in as well. It feels isolated. I quite like this, and the pine trees are a nice touch as well along the side. Next up after that is the Eastern European Firehouse, which has 4 vehicles. And you can add a garage extension here for an extra 4 vehicles. You get rid of the trees on the side, but you do add this extra garage space here. It's cool too because it feels like the garage extension feels like a newer extension on the building. Like it doesn't feel like it kind of goes with it in a way, which makes it does feel like it's a new add-on to the building, but it also kind of goes with it. It just feels right. I don't know. Some people might see this as like clashing. Ew, it's not the same style, but I actually kind of like that it's like a slightly different style from the main building. Next up is the Eastern European Fire Station. I love the bright colors in this as well. I think that's super cool. There is 2 extensions to this one as well. This can have 5 vehicles in use right off the rip for the 5 doors right here. It's a large fire station based on the emergency unit of Brisk City in Russia. So this is based on a real place in Russia, which is super cool, and can be expanded with additional garage and helipad. So we can add the additional garage back over here, which you can see, and that adds 8 extra fire engines, which is pretty substantial. And then we also have a fire helipad module right here that we can place down as well, which adds a fire helicopter, obviously, as well. Reminder, helicopters cannot be placed that close to skyscrapers. Finally, we have, which is, this building was one of the ones that made me smile really big because this is like identical to the fire stations in DayZ. The small fire station that houses 4 fire engines can be updated with an additional garage, which we can add on right there. I mean, this just, gosh, this one just threw me back, man. Like this just gave me such nostalgia of playing that game, which I've been scratching for it maybe. So this is like almost teasing me to get back into that game, but looks exactly like it. We have the Eastern European College. I love how nestled into the woods this building feels, you know? It feels like it's part of nature, which I absolutely love. And we can have 10,000 students at this one. We have the Eastern European Elementary School right here. As you can see, it has a nice big courtyard and it has a bunch of stuff around the side. No upgrades, but it can fit 1,500 students. We have the Eastern European Elementary School, which is another smaller version of the same building. This is based on a school in Lubsa. I'm actually kind of going back through and looking at some of the descriptions as well. So the standard building for college-educated institution widely distributed throughout the ex-USSR countries, which is going to be like a very common thread throughout a lot of these buildings. You know, there's a reason why this looks like the buildings that are in DayZ. It's because this was rebuilt quite a lot throughout. Like, they just built one standard style so that way they could mass produce ways to fix it. So it's like they know exactly how big the building is, so they know exactly how many pipes they need, and the pipes can be exactly the same size. And it was just really efficient to just carbon copy all of these buildings across the whole country. And then the extra states that were, Soviet sponsored. You know, standard Soviet school, usually ex-Soviet countries, such as building contained both elementary and high school. The standard large panel system, many other types of buildings, police stations, post office, social buildings were made from the same concrete prefabs. And you can see that same description over on some of these other buildings as well. I love the little education that we're getting actually in these as well. But we have this extra building right here for the extension wing. So you can basically turn this tiny little school right here, which is just this one little building here, and you can get rid of part of this courtyard, and you can add a full wing here to make this a decent sized elementary school. So this adds 90 student capacity, and it starts at 100. So just a nice little small elementary school. And this one is the regular size high school. There's no upgrades on this one, but it holds 800 students. Next up, we have the smaller version of the high school, which starts at 250. Small high school for suburban areas, inspired by schools built in Poland in 1966 as part of the Millennium School Project. So we can add an extra extension, just like we did with the elementary school on this one, which adds about 200 student capacity. And then on top of that, we can add a sports hall, which adds +3 well-being and +10 outdoor recreation. So that is the only, as far as I understand, this is the only external upgrade where we can actually place it wherever we want of all the buildings in the pack. The rest of the upgrades are ones built into the lot. So it's the only one that we can place kind of separate or attached to it if you'd like. So I can place it attached like that. Doesn't line up, doesn't seem like exactly, which is a little unfortunate, but that is how I'm gonna place it. So there we go. There is the sports hall right there. Next up is, I also placed one earlier, forgot about it, next to the building, so you guys can kind of just see it as it sits on its own. Next up is the modernist post office. Large building based on the main post office in Gdynia? I'm butchering all these names. It's a perfect fit for nearly any European city center. Is made to be placed with roads on the sides. So they want you to place roads on the left and right side of the building. My assumption is that there might be some pathway connections for this building. So let's build some roads around the side of it. Cool, so here we go. I built some roads around it because that's what it said to do. There we go, large building, yep, with roads on the side. So this can store 150,000 mail. You can add an extension wing, which goes on the back right portion of the building right here. And so that gets rid of that little pathway, and then you have like a little tunnel right there. And then you can also add another extension wing, which I'm assuming goes on the other side over there. And then you can see that they can actually utilize this side street, which is pretty cool. Finally, the Eastern European Post Office, which can hold up to 50,000 stored mail at one time. And you can see all the postal vehicles right there. I like how this building looks worn down too. Like this is like an industrial, like you back a truck up to it, all of its exhaust and soot kind of blasts at the back of the building as it backs up. I really like how kind of it feels like run down and worn down a little bit. Makes it feel lived in a way. Next up is the Central Train Station, a large terminal with 4 usable tracks. The building is based on the Yaroslav Glavny Station in Yaroslav City, Russia. So here we go. There's no upgrades on it, but it is a beautiful train station. I really like it. And then we also have the Eastern European Train Station, a small platform train station with 2 tracks based on the I'm not even going to try. Station in Moscow. So this is based on one of the stations that exists in Moscow. And you can see it's kind of like worn down a little bit. It's built up a little bit. I like the character, and like you have like stairs so people go up and down to the platform tracks. I quite like that quite a bit. Interested to see how that functions. Next up is the last section of the buildings here in the service tab, and that is the healthcare. So this is the EE Health Research Building. This health research building is based on a real research institute of transplantology and artificial organs in Moscow, Russia. Looks like a pretty generic hospital to me, maybe a little bit older. Definitely feels a little bit more Soviet or European to me than it does American, but I could see this also being used in an American build. Plus 10 park entertainment citywide and minus 10% 25% disease infection risk citywide. Next up, we have the EE Hospital, which definitely feels like a maybe an Eastern European hospital. I find it interesting that all the ambulances are parked up front here, and then you have some under the canopy. I do love this little like walk-in canopy. Like, this is how you enter. This feels like the like carousel when you go to a hospital. You pull up, maybe they do a valet thing where they take your car and you drop off your person and you get out and you go into the ER or whatever. The large hospital inspired from the Eastern European architecture. I think it looks super nice. I quite like this one quite a bit. It can hold up to 300 patients. So there you go on that one. We have the Eastern European Hospital, large city clinic. A large city clinical hospital based on the buildings of the real hospital in Minsk, Belarus. So here we go. We have 700 patients in this one. I think this is a beautiful building as far as Eastern European hospitals go. I quite like this one. I just love how much forest they have placed around these lots. I really like that. It makes these buildings feel like they're integrated into nature a bit more. And like, you do lose a little bit of the visuals of the architecture of like, you know, what's going on behind these trees. But I think it just adds to making these buildings feel like they've been here a while, and it adds that whole weathered effect that exists on a lot of these buildings as well. This building can have 700 patients. You get some ambulances here in the back as well. A big amount of parking. And the final building before we get to my favorite building in the pack is the medical clinic, a local outpatient clinic. Such as buildings were widely distributed throughout Moscow. Yeah, this just feels like a building you would see in ex-Soviet state for sure. I have no complaints or qualms with this one. 300 patients. Yeah, I could see it. Definitely could see it. I could also see this maybe even being used in an NA build necessarily, like in more of like a New York City kind of vibe. Now, we've taken a look at all of these buildings here. I might have accidentally flashed it at some point, but my favorite building is not over here. And I have this extra road to show you guys something with it later, but my favorite building is over here. It's this building right here. Now, when I zoom out, again, my texture settings, something's going on weird with them with the loading of the building, but it is this building right here. This is the disease control. I think this might potentially be the largest building. I haven't checked, but it might be the largest building in any of the region packs. This building is massive. It is huge. It is beautiful. It is brutalist. I love it. Oh my gosh, it is such an iconic building. Huge parking lot over here. You have helicopter pads in the back over here. You have 5 more over here. It feels like a massive medical campus. You could put this into a college. Look how long these hallways are. Oh my god. I'm in love. I love this building. I love this building so much. It is huge. It has tons of forest. It feels like you could walk around. It could be part of a park if you wanted it to be part of a park. This building is great. I don't know what's up with the trees that are spawned underneath part of the building, but it just is so unique. Like, this building has its like own little character to it. And then you have this huge back building. There's a back courtyard, so you could easily line a road up to it. Honestly, this should probably be surrounded completely by roads in reality, based on like how big the building is. It should be like the block. Gosh, I could talk all day about what I love about this building. It is absolutely massive. Minus 24% disease risk infection citywide, and minus 25% health effects from pollution citywide. Can have 650 patients inside this building. I mean, it is just massive. Let me move it over for you guys so you can see actually how big it is. So let's relocate. We're gonna move it into, and I think you guys can start to get the gist of how big this building is. We'll place it right here. I mean, this thing is just ginormous compared to anything I've seen placed inside this game. This building is huge. And I love the visual style of it. I think it's absolutely great. I hope you guys make great use out of it in your city, and I hope you guys get some fun out of it as well. I don't know what's up with these like little trees that keep popping up inside the buildings. Must be some kind of glitch with the building. You can always use tree controller to kind of probably get rid of those as well. But I think this building is absolutely stellar. I'm gonna even draw a road around it so you guys can kind of see what that would look like if you were to do that, because it does have that super cool. You do have this like little corner angle. You could probably use anarchy key to have a road kind of go along this if you wanted to and make it have a little bit more like strictness to how close that fence is if you wanted it to as well. But gosh, that looks so cool. I absolutely love this building. I'm excited to see what really good builders will do with this building, because I feel like it is such a centerpiece. So that is everything included in the Eastern European pack. It's really great to see all these creators. I know there were some creators that were affected, obviously, by the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and Russia, and by extension, Belarus. And it's really cool to see that these creators, even though they were affected maybe by this conflict, they were able to come together and get this pack out and show off the beloved architecture that makes up their home. Let me know what you guys think about this pack down in the comments. Now, the next pack comes out on February 10th, and that is the China pack, followed on February 24th, the Northeast USA pack, and then March 3rd, the final region pack, USA Southwest, on March 3rd. All available for free on Paradox Mods. Again, I will be live all February long from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, doing my streamathon over on Twitch and the other YouTube channel, which again, you guys should go subscribe to. And once that's all said and done, we're making our return to live streaming City Skylines 2 on March 3rd with the USA packs coming out fully. And a week later, we're doing our 10-hour City Skylines 10th anniversary challenge build as well over on Twitch. Before we go, there was a small hotfix update that did happen to the game. I never made a video on it because it really didn't contain anything super needing to be talked about, but just to let you guys know, there was a newer version of the game that was released since the last time I made a video on any game updates. I'm excited to see all the cool stuff the City Skylines developers have in store for the game this year, and I am excited to share that all with you as well. Anyways, I'll let you guys get on with your day. I've been Kodiak the Kodiak, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.